So the media reported yesterday that a Bernie Sanders strategy against Elizabeth Warren leaked. Now, I'm going to give you, what the supposed alleged strategy is here, but just keep in mind, there's a question as to whether or not this is actually from the Bernie campaign. But nonetheless, here it is. If they are leaning Warren, I like Elizabeth Warren. Optional. In fact, she's my second choice. But here's my concern about her. The people who support her are highly educated, more affluent people who are going to show up and vote Democratic no matter what. She's bringing no new bases into the Democratic Party. We need to turn out disaffected working class voters if we're going to defeat Trump. So, the media made a huge deal out of this. They went to Elizabeth Warren with it. They threw a softball for her down the center of the plate. They teed this up for her, and here's her response to the accusation that Bernie's campaign is showing that to all of their staffers and telling them to go out and go after Warren. Here's what she says.
The Bernie Sanders campaign and the way that they are talking about you at the doors here in Iowa, basically saying that your voters are people who will vote Democrat anyway, that you don't bring new bases into the Democratic tent. Why is he wrong?
I was disappointed to hear that Bernie is sending his volunteers out to trash me. Bernie knows me and has known me for a long time. He knows who I am, where I come from, what I have worked on and fought for, and the coalition and grassroots movement we're trying to build. Democrats want to win in 2020. We all saw the impact of factionalism in 2016, and we can't have a repeat of that. Democrats need to unite our party.
So she says the factionalism led to Hillary's defeat in 2016, and what we need to do is unite as a party. This is what she's saying. She also said, I was disappointed that Bernie sent his people to trash me. So first, let me just state the obvious. You're not supposed to unite in the primary. The whole point of the primary is to talk about the differences between the candidates so that we pick the one we like best to go up against the Republican. That's the point of the primary. The whole point of the primary is the disagreement. The whole point of the primary is to draw distinctions. So do the unify thing is messed up. And also, the factionalism argument, to blame Bernie for that, I mean, Elizabeth Warren, you've said previously, and you know it's true, they rigged the primary against Bernie in 2016. So now to go out there and accuse him of factionalism because he maybe drew a distinction with you, that's low. That's low. You knew they rigged it against him. You said in the past that they rigged it against him, and now you're blaming him for the factionalism? Why? Because every now and then he occasionally made a correct anti-Hillary Clinton argument where he said, hey, I disagree with you on this policy, Hillary. How dare you, Bernie? How dare you point out accurate differences between you and your opponents in a primary? Come on, Elizabeth Warren. What are you doing here? What are you doing? Now, here's the kicker. It might not be from Bernie's team at all. So take a look at this. Bernie Sanders volunteer hits back. Here's what actually happened. A random user who's only ever posted once before posted that document in the Sanders volunteer Slack group. A moderator promptly removed it and stated that it was not a campaign source. So, listen. This story blew up massively. And all these articles about how Bernie Sanders sends his surrogates to trash Elizabeth Warren, and all of them framed against Bernie Sanders, and clearly so. So it is possible that this is a story that is planted. That it was a plan from Elizabeth Warren's team to make it look like Bernie's team is trashing me, and how dare you, I'm the person who can unify. That's what Elizabeth Warren's argument. I could unify the country, and we need to be in favor of unifying and all that stuff, unifying Democrats or whatever the case may be. And it's possible it was a top-down strategy, and they planted it knowing it's not from Bernie's team. Or it's possible that, it is from Bernie's team. So if it's not from Bernie's team, man, that's like a devious plan on the part of the media and the Warren campaign. But if it is from Bernie's team, and here's the most important point, guys, that distinction that they're trying to draw with Warren, that's accurate. Guys, there's been countless mainstream media articles on this. This isn't like, hidden. This isn't like forbidden knowledge, and it's not factually false. In fact, it's factually true. The demographic numbers show that Elizabeth Warren has surprisingly, to my surprise too, by the way, guys, but she's gotten, supporters that are more in line with Hillary Clinton's supporters. They are, whiter and older and more affluent and have more college degrees. Now, that's just a fact. That's just a fact. So to say, like, Elizabeth Warren might not be the person who could bring in new bases of support, people of color, working class people, people who don't have college degrees, to say that is just a reflection of what the numbers already are. So to pull the "how dare you, sir" card over this is so stupid, because anybody who looks at the numbers is going to go, oh, but they're correct. So I honestly, I don't care if it was from the Bernie campaign or not from the Bernie campaign, because either way, the reaction from mainstream media and from Elizabeth Warren is preposterous. How dare you draw a distinction with me in a primary where the whole point of the primary is to draw distinctions? And how dare you bring up factual numbers like the demographic groups and the bases of support? I mean, it goes back to the Hillary Clinton thing. Maybe the problem isn't that he's pointing out your policy failures. Maybe the problem is your policy failures. In the case of Elizabeth Warren, it's slightly different, but it's the same. It's the same rebuttal that they're giving. Like, how dare you, point that out? Yeah, but that's true. So you can't get mad. Truth is always a defense. So you can't get mad unless you're mad at yourself for only attracting those kinds of voters, or overwhelmingly, I should say, attracting those kinds of voters. Because of course she has some that violate that trend, but she does have way more of the older, whiter, more affluent, more college degrees voters than Bernie does. So it's just, guys, it's such a manufactured controversy. And then of course Bernie came out and he's like, we're not telling anybody to trash Warren. That's what Bernie said about this. Like, no, because guys, how many times has Bernie... Much to my dismay, I get upset because he does it too much. He goes out there and he's like, Elizabeth Warren is my friend. And he bends over backwards to not attack her. The strongest attack I've seen from Bernie against Warren is when he was on stage with her in one of the debates and he said, I'm the only person on this stage to vote against all of Trump's military budgets. That was the strongest attack Bernie had done against Warren, and he didn't call her out by name. It was like a disagreement by implication where people have to connect the dots. I mean, come on. This guy who said all the time, like, no, this is my friend, I don't think he would, green light something like that. But even if he did green light something like that, it is factually accurate, and that's the point of a primary, is to draw distinctions. If you want to say, hey, yeah, but put the demographic stuff aside and just go on policy, that I can agree with you on. That I think is a fair criticism. But that's not the criticism the media is making, and that's not the criticism Warren is making. Their criticism is, how dare you disagree at all and make distinctions at all in a primary, and why are you trashing me? It is a manufactured controversy. It is so over the top, their reaction. And let me tell you guys something. This has a lot to do with the fact that a poll just came out which predicted the last six elections correctly, that Bernie Sanders is leading in Iowa by 3 points. The very last poll was Bernie Sanders leading in Iowa by 3 points. Again, this poll predicted Iowa right the last, I think, 6 times. So they see that, and now mainstream media is flipping out. Establishment Democrats are flipping out, and they're going to muck up all these fake controversies to try to take down Bernie. Be cognizant of that, because you're going to see a lot of it going forward. You're going to see a lot of negative attention directed at Bernie, and that is exactly why. They don't want him to win, and the polls show he's doing very, very well, so now it's time to throw some Hail Mary passes. That's what this is.